we had one sound guy trying to put a microphone on Sierra, but she was wearing like a very low cut cleavage like dress, and he was so nervous because he didn't want to touch her boobs. And so I was like trying to manage him, like, hey, she's a professional, you can hand her the mic and she can clip it on and all that kind of stuff. And like, oh, okay, right? And then as that's being handled, the other one comes up, he's like, hey, so the bro in the suit downstairs got him all mic'd up. He seems a little impatient. And I was like, yeah, that bro downstairs is Andy Jassy. He's the new CEO of Amazon. This is his first ever interview. Be cool. But that's my favorite thing about events in media is when, the people who work in media are so much fun. And I love it when they get exposed and like very professional people get exposed to them.
Welcome to Beats Working, winning the game of events, where we share stories and strategies to turn any event or life moment into something unforgettable.
Events are wild, and the people who work in them are some of the most resilient humans on Earth. If you know, you know.
So come with us behind the curtain for a look at their most memorable experiences.
As they say, the show must go on, so let's get on with the show.
Brian Hurley, we're really excited to have you today on Beats Working, winning the game of events.
I'm so excited to be here.
Because I love to talk about parties, like all the time.
I know you like to talk about parties.
I love to talk about parties. And I just want to start right from the get. I want to go straight to the most delusional budget item anyone's ever asked you to do that obviously they had no idea what it was really going to cost. What is the single most delusional thing you've been asked to do? And not by me though. It has to be by somebody I don't know.
I don't know. At least you. Every time, and I'm not alone in this, but every time when somebody goes, "Oh, this is gonna be a great partnership, and you're gonna get great exposure," it means it's about to be followed by like, "Can you do this for free?" or "Can you do this for like $1,500 or something like that?" Like, and that one is just I've gotten pretty good at just exiting the conversation politely at that point. So that's the number one thing of just like, hey, I just can't dedicate the kind of staff and the kind of equipment that you need, and I don't want to disappoint you. So I think you might call the local university, find some interns, and have a nice day.
Ouch. Zing. Zing. What's the most delusional thing you've ever seen at an event? Something crazy and unexpected. Like, I don't know, parrots flying across the stage of the Paramount. Something like that. I'm just making that up, obviously.
Delusional? I'm not quite sure. There are times where I have to just look around and go like, this is my life. I was this past winter, we do this. It's every year. It's a disaster, but it's one of my favorite gigs every year. We work with the Mammoth Film Festival in Mammoth, California. And it's always a disaster because every year it's in March in Mammoth, and that's just blizzard season. So 2 years in a row, we've had like the first year was 50 feet of snow in the week that we were doing it. And then last year was a lot more tame. It was only 20 feet of snow. But we were recording all of the red carpet and, and media panels. And we were using this kind of abandoned mall in Mammoth as our HQ for all the media stuff. And the power went out, and I'm sitting there, and Jaleel White, Urkel, is sitting next to me, and we're snowed in, and there's no power. And I have no idea what we're going to do, much less get a live stream out or anything like that. And I'm just like, I'm going to die in this abandoned warehouse with Urkel. And how is this my life today?
Did you ask him to give you a little, did I do that before you kicked the bucket?
The poor guy hears it all the time. Like he's so cool about it. But we definitely had some PAs drop things on purpose and go, oh shoot, did I do that? And then like scurry off before he could but He's super. He's a super nice guy, and you just like. I always wonder when I meet these, famous people or people of note, what it's like to be them and have people just walk up to them and know them so well, and then be like, and then the poor guy like probably gets chased around all the time, getting asked if he could do the "Did I do that?" voice and all that kind of stuff. So like, I try not to. Because I try to be really cool around celebrities, and I'm definitely not. Like, I'm definitely a nerd.
I would think that you can roll cool for a bit, but you can't. Like, you're eventually gonna crack.
I'm gonna fanboy on everybody.
Yeah.
And so, but no, that was probably the most. I don't know if I'd call it. It was the delusional, but it was definitely like, what fever dream am I in right now? That I'm just like, And John Stamos was the next interview. So it was a weird time. It was a weird time.
What's your coolest celebrity encounter? Or just most memorable celebrity encounter?
My most memorable celebrity encounter is Robin Williams and Bobcat Goldthwait. So this was in my stand-up comedy days. We did a show at the Rebar in Seattle.
You were a stand-up comedian?
I have for like 5 years. Yeah.
You didn't know that?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I wasn't any good. I wasn't any good at it. There's a reason I do marketing now.
What's your name again? Brian Hurley, stand-up comedian?
Hurley. Yeah. No, this was forever ago. This was right after college. And they were in town doing their Father of the Year movie. I don't know if you ever saw it. It was a great movie. But he came to this tiny little show at the Rebar in Seattle, and it was so much fun. I don't think I even said anything. I didn't nerd out. I just sat in the booth with him as they told stories and was just in awe. And I think he passed away shortly thereafter. I mean, it wasn't too far after that he passed away, but that was my coolest, like, wow, like, I'm in awe of you, celebrity. Here's another fun, just, I don't even know if this is a celebrity story, but my sound guys, and I love these sound guys. They're super talented guys, but they remind me of the crew from Wayne's World. Do you remember the guys who would sit in the back, like, hey, bro, like just long hair, flannel, whatever.
Like
we were
Libby's
just running
flannel
around.
that she's wearing right now, like that?
Yes, exactly. We had one sound guy trying to put a microphone on Sierra, but she was wearing like a very low cut cleavage, like dress. And he was so nervous because he didn't want to touch her boobs. And so I was like trying to manage him, like, hey, she's a professional. You can hand her the mic and she can clip it on and all that kind of stuff. And like, oh, okay, right. And then as that's being handled, the other one comes up. He's like, hey, so the bro in the suit downstairs got him all mic'd up. He seems a little impatient. And I was like, yeah, that bro downstairs is Andy Jassy. He's the new CEO of Amazon. This is his first ever interview. Like, be cool. It's just like, okay, But that's my favorite thing about events and media is when, the people who work in my world is like, sometimes I touch events, but it's very media focused, right? But the people who work in media are so much fun and very, they're just their own thing altogether. And I love it when they get exposed and like very professional people get exposed to them, right? Like it's a funny world that you live in where some guy who smells like weed is miking up Andy Jassy, right?
Oh, for sure.
So anyway.
I mean, they have to you got to fly by the seat of your pants a lot in media and events. And those Wayne's World guys, they know how to do it. They're flying high. Literally.
And I don't,
get it.
Not all of them are. Not all of them are.
I'm just kidding.
I'm definitely not drug testing though. But no, I mean that's the fun part is the personalities that come with these highly skilled positions sometimes. It's just, all right, let's throw them in. I think, Elise and I, from the sales side of things, we like to present, here's how we're going to present ourselves today. And then when it comes to production or the actual event, it's, all right, here's my parade of Muppets. Let's do this, right? So, and I'm one of those Muppets for sure.
You're definitely
for
a
sure.
Muppet. Okay, what is, events are like the wild, wild west. Everything that could go wrong usually does, and it's usually the things you're not expecting, but there's always a twist. We just talked about how you have to be kind of quick on your feet. You have to, which is why, you find that a lot of people in media and events do have very good sense of humor. And because they have to be real snappy, snarky, just keep rolling with it. What's your go-to strategy for handling the unexpected twists?
I have a
in
lot of
polite
thoughts
way?
on that.
Yeah.
No,
you
I've
do.
got a lot of thoughts. I mean, the unique thing about events and production in general is like you've got the client actually sees the process and what's getting made as it goes, right? And in an event, in a live broadcast, something will go wrong throughout the day. At least one thing will go wrong throughout the day. These are complex events and there's a million different things happening. You've got human beings pressing buttons. Something's going to happen that's unexpected. So what we try to do, and it's been really effective, is we have just a pre-event like roundup, right? And we kind of took this from sports teams, like football teams who do their little huddle before a game to get each other pumped up and talk about what's going on in the game. So, it's hard to do, especially as like some people are working on different areas of the building, but getting everybody that in my team is going to be interacting together. So camera, audio, I get the client in there too. And we just have a quick roundup, and we're not meeting about everything because everything's planned at this time, but it's just hey guys, let's just make sure we get our heads straight. Let's think about all the work we've done up until now to plan this as well as possible. Now, we all know going into this that it's live and something random is gonna go wrong today. And really, the success or failure in this event is going to be how we respond to that issue, right? So if we jump in it and we take care of it and we laugh a little bit and we move merrily on our way, that's a success. If we let it break us and we panic and then there's a cavalcade of panic, that's when things are going to be that's when we're going to run into some trouble, and that's where things can go south. So having the client in that little roundup, it just reminds everybody that this is an event and anything can happen. On the negative side, especially like, if you're a talent, right, and there's an audio glitch, or they were expecting their teleprompter to work and all of a sudden the teleprompter stops working, or whatever gremlin gets into the system, if that talent feels exposed, they're going to start either saying something off camera, which looks awful, or they tense up and like it just kind of kills the vibe of the overall production. So like being able to just set the tone of we're going to roll with this. And so if there's an audio issue, the host just goes like, perfect example, we had Brett Davern, who was our host down in Mammoth, when the power was going out. And so the power to the soundboard would go out, but the cameras were still picking up. And he was just rolling with it. And it was fun. People were enjoying the broadcast. And it was actually usable footage at the end to repurpose into other stuff. So like just setting the tone of like knowing, hey, guys, this is an event. Let's not take ourselves too seriously. We've worked really hard and we're professionals to get here to right now as the event's starting. And then the rest is up to the universe here. Like we're going to have some unexpected things happen right now. That doesn't mean like we don't take blame for things if like we weren't prepared. That's not an excuse for not being prepared. And if something happens, it goes on we got to make sure this doesn't happen again kind of thing. But like we all know exactly, look, we've had ships come in with the wrong, ships coming in the port of Seattle, and they used a frequency we've never heard before that created interference with our microphones, right? Like you can't plan for that sometimes. So you just got to roll with it. And so it's those kinds of things, and making sure that the relationship with the client is one that's not like somebody with a clipboard staring at you going like, I'm going to murder you, and more like, okay, what do we do now? Let's jump into this and go, right?
I love a clipboard, so I hope you're not talking about me.
I am not talking
Yeah, she
about
does
you at
love a
all.
clipboard.
Every event
She
person
does
loves
love a
clipboards.
clipboard.
But you guys know what I'm talking about, though,
Yeah,
right? Like, I
do.
think we've all been in those positions where the event manager or whoever that is stressed and maybe doesn't know how to handle stress in the moment. And so, like, without guidance, they're not going to know what to do. So if we go like, hey, something's going to happen, and we can laugh it off and keep moving and keep things positive, just giving that kind of instruction gives that person gives everybody just a little bit of freedom to I don't know, to kind of move through the moment and get through it.
I was working at an event last week. I'm not going to say what event or where. I'll just say that I was over 2,000 people. And there was a lot of mix up between the will call and the VIP ticket areas. And the gal that was managing the will call ticket booth area was very stressed, very high strung, out of breath, frazzled, running everywhere. And it was really interesting to watch how her energy was contagious. Like everybody else had been so chill, even though things were going wrong, until her energy came in. And then then everybody else's energy started to go up and off, and not in a good way. And it was like, everybody just needs to take a beat. Like, this is tickets. We're not actually saving any lives here, right? Like, take a beat. But it was really, because it wasn't my event. I was just there helping. So it was really interesting, kind of as a bystander, to watch how other people's energy can so quickly change the level in the room.
Well, it's I coach my son's little league football team, right? And we're constantly telling them on the sidelines, hey, how you react to a situation will inform how your teammate acts, right? And attitude is contagious across the board. So if you feel yourself getting brought down by somebody else near you, it's incumbent upon you to put out what you want everybody else to feel. So if you're feeling stressed, somebody has to have the bandwidth to basically counteract that energy, right? But this just comes back to everything I learned as an adult, or everything I use as an adult, I learned as a kid in either little league or kindergarten, right? And life's pretty much that simple. But to that point, Elise, when we're not doing our best, the people who work with us, the people on my crew regularly, and this is, for production, even if it's not a live event, for production, it's the same thing. It's a high stress event type day where there's a bunch of different things going on. And I think, one, you have to be quick to circle back to people and go, hey, I was a little harsh there. I was just stressed. I was just running through that. And just when recognizing that we're stepping in shit, to go back and clean it up a little bit.
You're really good at that, actually.
I'm
Stepping
very
in
good
the
at that.
shit and
Stepping in the shit
to be
and
clear.
yeah,
You're good at both. You're good at both.
Nobody's a better apologizer than I am, because
You're one
I've
of the
had
best.
to learn
You're
how
one
to
of the
be.
best.
One of the
Truly.
best.
One of the best.
Right. But then also, like, just setting a tone too of going like, hey, sometimes you got to just listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth and not the tonality that they're coming out with, because there's going to be times where we've got 4 different people that need to hear 4 different things in 4 seconds, and you should always be polite, but sometimes you're not. And having the people around you not have thick skin, because I don't want to tell people have thick skin so I can verbally abuse you. It's just having thick skin, knowing that everybody's stressed and trying to get to the right end goal, I guess. I don't know if that makes any sense whatsoever.
It does, because we have a saying at work, P2P, called assume goodwill,
Well, I like
which
that.
I have found immensely helpful, because I am somebody, this might shock you, I love a good exclamation point in an email. I really try to put out all the friendly vibes so that everybody knows I'm on your team, I'm friendly. And a lot of people just don't email like that. They are to the point and they're short. And it's been a real struggle for me in my career to not be, put people on a list that send me those short emails with periods and no exclamation points and no emojis and no greetings or, sayonara signatures. Anyway,
Your millennial is
I-
showing right now, Libby. Your
I
millennial.
Yeah, you're
know.
millennial. Yeah, I definitely have sent you those emails.
No, I don't need that. I know. But assume goodwill I have found really helpful because I give people a lot more grace and then my feelings don't get hurt as much. I mean, you guys, I couldn't sell campfire candy as a kid because I'd cry when people said no. So, like Dick's got real thin skin here. See-through, basically.
I'm curious, Brian, how do you, knowing all of this, do you have any tips or tricks that you do to prepare yourself or even your team leading into an event the night before, the morning of? Like, how do you prepare yourself? Not saying it happens perfectly all the time, but you've been doing this long enough now. There's got to be some practices that you have to get yourself centered before you go on the stage, so to speak.
Yeah, when I know that I'm going to have a stressful day, and first of all, I hire people who are better than me at all this stuff. Brandon, who runs production for us, takes lead on site for a reason. He's better with people than I am, right? Quite frankly. So know your path. And when it comes to the actual event, I should be client side and then basically be a floater for anything that's going on. But Brandon is taking the lead, and Brandon's taking the lead because he's a nicer human being, understands, exactly what needs to get done, and knows how to explain things well to the entire crew. So that's the number one thing. But anything, I think before going into a stressful day, there's a lot of things that I try to do or should do. A lot of that is just going to be making sure I get out of bed with the right mindset. And so if whatever people need to do that, if it's a prayer, if it's meditation, if it's a workout, if it's anti-anxiety drugs, jump on it and take care of it. But I think everybody knows their what they need to do to take care of themselves. For me, it's a workout, quick prayer, meditation, and then I got to get on with my day. And usually that puts me in the right headspace. It's hard though. I mean, I think we've all been in those situations where we're midstream in a stressful day and we just have to take a beat, whether that's just go to the bathroom and just not to go to the bathroom, but to just sit in the corner and go, all right, cool. And then back at it. Right. And I think too, what's important to know for everybody is, we keep talking. I feel bad. I feel like we're talking about the most negative things, but when we're in those stressful days, just knowing that the day will end and everybody's going to be fine. It's.
Mm-hmm. I'm not taking this conversation as negative at all. I think my biggest takeaway of all your different answers today is that the importance of having self-awareness doesn't mean you're perfect at it and you catch it all. But if you don't have any self-awareness, this kind of industry is going to be wildly uncomfortable, right? So it's that being able to realize when you had a tone that you didn't intend, or it came out sharper than it needed to be, or, any of those things. It's when you make the messes, because you will, it's the cleaning it up as promptly as possible. So that's what my takeaway is from what you're saying.
100%. It's funny. We had my son's conference yesterday. I didn't get to go because I was working, but my wife came back. She was so proud of Jack because his big goal, and his big goal was, well, I just want to be a better classmate and a better friend to my friends. And he's always good at that stuff too. And I'm just not going to take over a podcast to brag about my kids, but he's a good kid. And the teacher asked him, well, what's something you can do to do that? And he said, well, I can just be more confident. Right. And I think that's, and I was like, dude, that's what I think every organization needs. Because when you think about the temper flare-ups or the defensiveness in the moment, or, whatever it is, that's just somebody who's worried about looking bad and looking dumb in front of whoever their important people are. And so also just knowing that you're qualified to be there, you're confident in what you're doing. And if something goes sideways, it was outside of your skill set, but that doesn't mean that you're not qualified to be there because that was outside of your skill set. And so just being able to approach any stressful situation with confidence can, I think, avoid a lot of those traps to begin with as well. So anyway.
Props to Jack for giving us advice.
The kid's been going to AA meetings since he was 3, so.
He knows. He knows the language.
Ryan, we talked about the beginning of an event, we talked about the middle of an event. How do you, when an event is over and it's wrapping, like what do you do, and how does that play in specifically around video and media where your expertise lie? Like what does wrapping an event look like for you?
When we're doing events, it's usually one team doing live streams and then another team doing selects. So taking out those fun moments that are happening throughout the live stream and then incorporating those into social promos or social media recaps and things like that. So really what we do is as the event wraps, we're getting our live streaming team to set down and pack up for the next day. But then that's just getting started. The day's really just getting started at that point for the editing team, who's then putting these selects together. And especially for event-based clients, they need this right away. They need it that night. They need it the next morning because it's not evergreen content. That content isn't going to be that useful, a couple of days from now. So then it becomes the editing all night kind of thing. And those folks are ready for it. They knew what they were getting into. And so it doesn't stop until we actually deliver that to the client and the client puts that out on social media. Then we're done, right? That's one part of it. I think, for any event, like these week-long events that we're doing this kind of stuff for, there's this energy and it's fun and it's this summer camp type vibe / super stressful type vibe, and everybody's kind of feeding off of the energy of that. I don't find that the right time to start recapping and talking about what went well and what didn't. I think I give everybody a high five. I'm not a hugger. I congratulate people for the hard work that they've done. I thank them and make sure that they feel really good about the work that they've done and that they're leaving. But then I want them to go home and just unwind a little bit, like get out of the headspace. And when we do recap meetings, we'll do them 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later. Well, everybody's had a chance to basically like come down from the high a little bit and then realize like, hey, that weird thing that Elise and I got into on Tuesday afternoon about the balloons didn't matter. So that probably doesn't need to be discussed. Right. So like, it's kind of like gives everything just a chance to just cool down a little bit. And then we can go into the recap and everybody can kind of, there's not as much emotion into those recap calls of what went well, what we could do better and all those kinds of things. People have a pretty realistic view of it and they've slept. So they're not like wound way up and raw.
So how do you gauge success then? We know that something can go wrong and it always will, and there's always hiccups, but what's the marker of success for you and for your team when you're working with a client?
For everything we do, not just events, my gauge of success is if that person hires us again. There are lots of good people out there, and I always say it's really easy to sell something once. It takes a professional to sell something over and over and over again to the same person. Mm-hmm. And so, like catastrophes can happen. They don't happen that often, but they can happen. And I think it's how, if I'm the client and I see something go down that wasn't in the plans, I sit back and I go, okay, did these people prepare? Yes or no? How did they respond? Did they respond well or did they respond poorly? And if I'm the client and I go, these guys weren't prepared and they responded like trash, I'm not hiring them back. If I'm the client and I go, these people prepared and then they responded well, I'll probably hire those people again because I trust them. And that was something that was outside of their sphere of influence. But that's always the big marker is, do we get hired back again? And then when we don't get hired back, it's not a fun conversation, but having the courage to call the client and go, hey, I noticed you didn't hire us back. I'm not complaining about that. Can you just tell us a little bit about why that might be?
That is such a hard question to ask.
And then shutting up and listening, right? So.
Why don't you want to buy my campfire candy? Please tell me.
Libby is crying in the corner.
Oh my gosh, that is That's a very good tip, but man, that makes me kind of melt inside a little bit. But I'm going to get some courage from you the next time I don't get hired for something. I don't know what that would be.
Just have some confidence, Libby, just like Jack.
See? Just like Jack.
Just like Jack. See, everything we need to know as
Jack
adults.
do? What would Jack do?
WWJD. Oh my gosh.
Brian, we believe at Work P2P, it ain't bragging if it's true. So what is one, I know you have many, but what is one career achievement that you're incredibly proud of, besides obviously having a moment in time that you worked with myself and Libby?
So
Okay.
I will say that the team that we all met on, for folks listening, we all worked at King 5 together a while ago. And I think that staff is probably one of the best staffs that's ever been compiled in media. And I still, like, the salespeople were phenomenal. The promotions people were phenomenal. The producers were phenomenal. The community relations were phenomenal. It was just a fun place to work and a fun vibe throughout that. So that was great. I will say my biggest achievement right now is just where my life is right now, right here, right? And okay, so this is not bragging if it's not, okay, so I'm going to brag a
Not
little
bragging
bit
if it's
here.
true, my friends.
True, man.
You know.
Yep.
So right
Spill it.
now, and it took a long time to get here. I left King about 5 years ago. You know, I worked in some different business partnerships, and there were some really good things about those, and some things I learned about myself that you know, didn't work out. And it was a painful process going off on my own. It was a really painful process. It was really scary. And right now I'm at this place in my life where I have nothing bad to say about any of the clients I work with. I'm really lucky to work with cool clients. And a lot of that just comes with, you know, enough time to just attract the right people, and then they refer like-minded people to you. And then those relationships stay and grow. But like right now, my day in, day out, you know, my wife, Cassie, does a lot of producing for us and acts as a producer. A lot of the times I'm trying to get her to come work full time, but I'm pretty sure she doesn't want to be that handcuffed to me all the time. And then, you know, Brandon, who I mentioned earlier, who's our creative director and oversees production, you know, he's my best friend from college. So, you know, my day in, day out life is surrounded by people I truly love. And we're working with good clients, and it's working right now. You know, sometimes when life just gets on plane and feels like, okay, we're surfing this wave. And that's where we're at right now. And so it's not like a slam dunk big client kind of answer, but, you know, just right where I am right now, if I could bottle this up, I would.
I'd also like to just do a little shout out to Brandon and his stellar Lego collection. Like, I love zooming with that guy because I'm like, can you just move a little to the left so I can stare at your Lego collection?
Yeah, he and Jack talk about Legos quite a bit.
Yeah.
That just makes me feel so warm and fuzzy. I'm so happy for you.
Yeah, me too.
The best.
Look, there are chapters in life where the seas are rough, and then there are chapters of ease in life. And I think right now, knock on wood, I'm in a chapter of ease. And I have to remember what this feels like and why we're doing this when, you know, things go off the rails and life happens. So,
But I think, you know, you talked a lot about working with clients that you really like and then getting referred to more like-minded clients. That means that you did turn down some clients that you knew weren't right. And that's sometimes hard to do as an entrepreneur because that's money, right? That's and but it gets to a point where you realize money is really not the only factor. And I think a lot of people in events are not doing it for the money because the time and the passion that's involved, there's no real dollar figure sometimes you can attach to that.
well, I'd say yes, and then I'd counter that a little bit, Elise, in that, like, I make less money when I work with those pain in the butt clients. And I make less money because no matter what I say, the expectations are never managed right. Like, I can't work with people I don't communicate well with. And so if they're expecting something and I'm still grabbing them by the ear and saying, I can't give this to you, and they're still expecting it, that's going to create a lot of revisions. That's going to create a lot more editing hours. That's going to create a lot more crew hours. Sometimes it'll create wasted advertising dollars. So like I've found that even from like, yes, absolutely that decision is made for my own just mental well-being because I want to go to sleep at night and I want to wake up happy. But also the added benefit to that is good business is good business, right? Mm-hmm. So, I end up having more profitable relationships with people I like because I don't have to keep doing the back and forth and I don't have to waste a bunch of, you know how it is. You can have that email in the morning that just ruins your day.
Yeah.
And like, you're not going to be productive if you're trying to sell another client or if you're trying to get through another project, even after you're done dealing with that person. So, no, we try to fight. We don't try to. I fire about one client a quarter, and it works really well for me. So,
but that's Dan Rogers, the owner of Work P2P. He does as well. Like we've let a lot of clients go since I joined the team 2.5 years ago. And at first I was like, what are you doing? Since when do we turn money away? But I actually understand it now. And it makes a lot more sense when you realize something is not a right fit all the way around.
Yeah. The first time you do that, it's a leap of faith because you're just going, how am I going to replace this person? But the absolute truth is you replace it and then some with the right person too. Mm-hmm. And then again, back to confidence, just gives you that confidence of knowing like, I don't have to be treated that way. And sometimes these people aren't bad people. They just operate so differently that it's just like, you got to know, like, look, yeah. I tell my guys all the time, there's 8 billion people on planet Earth right now and 7,900,000,099 whatever don't need to be our client, right? There's certain people who operate really well with us and there's certain people who don't. And if they don't, that's okay. That doesn't make them a bad person. It just means they'd be happier with a different vendor. So if somebody's listening to this and just goes, Brian's a pain in the ass, I probably shouldn't call him. Call me. I'm not that big of a pain in the ass. That's my advertisement today.
He's not. He's great. And Brian, where can our listeners find you?
Easiest way to find me is hurleymediagroup.com, HURLEY mediagroup.com, and you can book an appointment with us, and we can talk about your project and see if there's a fit.
Love it and love you. Thank you so much for sharing your time and your wisdom with us today.
All right. Well, thank you guys. This is a pleasure, and I always enjoy talking to you. So
good. We'll have you back. We love you.
Thanks for listening to Beats Working, Winning the Game of Events, where we explore what it takes to make moments unforgettable.
If you're leaving with a little more inspiration, a little more perspective, and a big side ache from all of the laughing at our funny jokes, then we've done our job.
Beats Working is a Work P2P production. If you've enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platforms.
Your support helps us keep the magic going.